I'm at the base of Grouse Grind here, getting ready to do this thing. Hopefully I survive, and then go to my next phase of the day. So apparently there's like 2,820 steps to the top of this thing. It's about just before 7 a.m. here in Vancouver, and I'm going to be going right over there into those trees over there, and it's actually pretty busy here already. I'm quite surprised. So I don't know how much I'm going to be able to record because it's pretty dark in there, but let's give it a shot. It's going to take a little bit of time. Please read carefully.
Good morning.
Morning. Okay, just over a quarter way up, and this is a beast, but it still feels pretty good. So I don't know if you can see this, but it is just non-stop stairs all the way, and yeah, I like to think that I'm not crazy, but I think I'm crazy. All right, here we go. All right, I made it. That was hard. That was super hard. Not gonna lie. Holy smokes. That was hard. Wow. Woo. All right, well, I made it to the top of Grouse Mountain, did the grind. That was punishing. Oh man, that's probably the hardest thing I've ever done. Of all the hikes and runs I've done, that was probably one of the hardest things I've ever done. But I made it. This is the second time I've come up here. 3 years ago, I did the VCMC, which is right next door to the grind, because the Grouse Grind was closed for maintenance. That was equally as hard. But this was just relentless stairs. Let me check my watch here, what the actual stats were. So, let's see here. Hold on. Come here. Alright, so it was 1.65 miles up. Total ascent from the parking lot was 2,612 feet. And I did that in 1.65 miles. So it's pretty much straight up the entire time. Relentless stairs. Did some research before this one, and I think there's about 3,000 steps to the top. There's gotta be more than that. But it's a good combination of good old steps and rocks and twigs. I just hop a lot. But it's okay, I got here. So now I'm gonna catch the gondola down, and let's see if I can turn this around. You can see where I'm gonna go down here. And then, you see my fingers pointing over there at Stanley Park. I'm gonna see if I can get down there and change into some running gear and go for a little run around the park. So hopefully I make it. So let's go. All right, I am at Stanley Park. Just drove down here from Grouse Mountain, and yeah, I think I'm gonna go for a run now. Kind of crazy, but came down from the mountain and it's a beautiful day here in Vancouver, and I figured I'd just keep punishing my body today. So I'm gonna try and bang out a 10K here and see how it goes. I just finished my 10K run around Stanley Park, and I thought it was gonna be a lot harder than it was, but the climb was actually a lot harder than the run. But I got it done, and it feels pretty good. I'm just sitting up here by the parking lot, away from the cars, just to wrap up the day. And you know, I've been coming here for the past 3 years, every year on my anniversary of my heart attack, just to go for a run and climb. And this year is the 5-year anniversary of my heart attack, coming up here pretty quick. And it's been pretty incredible to just be able to do this activity and still, you know, finish it. And I realized that not everyone who experiences a heart attack can do things like this after they recover. Some people have more serious heart attacks than I did. But nonetheless, you know, if you're watching this and you happen to find this and you are a survivor, you know, I hope that you can find some way to do rehab and recovery in your life. It's been a pretty incredible 5 years. I really have just tried to live healthier and obviously doing lots of running and hiking and really focusing on my body. And the fact that I made it around the park today is just a miracle in itself. I did this, you know, climb run 3 years ago, also at Grouse Mountain, and I mean, I barely finished the run here. It was terrible. The heat was it was pretty hot, and I felt nasty. But today I felt really good. The climb was hard. The run was solid. Beautiful scenery. It's always good to come here and run. It's absolutely gorgeous here. And I just feel very grateful that my heart's still pumping, and I get to do stuff like this. 5 years ago, I sat up on my couch one night, and I thought I had some arm pain, and I couldn't quite figure out what was going on, and then I felt this pain in my chest, and I got dizzy and nauseous in my kitchen, and I didn't pass out, but I almost did. And one thing led to another. I called 911, and paramedics show up to my house, and everything looked okay, even though they said my blood pressure had shot up to 200. And then the EMT said these words to me I'll never forget. He said, I think you're okay, but let's go to the hospital just in case. And to this day, I am convinced that he knew. He knew I had a heart attack, but he didn't want to tell me. He didn't want to panic me. He also probably didn't have all the tests that they needed to do, but I think he knew in his gut. And I went to the hospital. I thought I'd just get some blood tests. I thought maybe it was just stressful. I'd come home, and 3 hours later, after I'm thinking everything's fine, this on-call cardiologist comes into my room, who I've not seen all night, and he says, your test came back. You've got elevated levels of troponin, which means your heart has excreted this enzyme at a higher level, which means it was under duress, which means you had a heart attack. You're not going home tonight. You're going to stay here. In the morning, you're going to have an angiogram. They're going to stick a camera up your arm and put some fluid in you and see what's going on. So just, prepare for that. And you can imagine my shock when that happened. And I felt like I was watching a movie. I didn't really know what was going on. And all night, I barely slept. I had things hooked up to me, and I just kept watching this machine with my heart beating. And I thought, oh my God, am I gonna have another heart attack in the middle of the night? And next morning, I rolled into surgery, and I remember laying there thinking, this is all very surreal, and I don't really know what's going on. And I was still kind of in shock. And I remember the nurse said to me, as they were prepping me, she said, what kind of music do you want for your surgery? And I was like kind of surprised she said that to me. And then I realized that same day, I think it was October 6th, that was the day Eddie Van Halen died. If you know Eddie Van Halen from the famous rock band Van Halen. So I said, let's play some Van Halen, let's do a tribute surgery. And the woman's like, absolutely. So I remember they cranked up the song, and I remember falling asleep to hearing Jump, some live performance of the song Jump. And I remember right before the surgery started, I was laying there, and they say people have these near-death experiences where they see life flash before their eyes. And I didn't think that I was going to die, but the angiogram procedure itself has about a 1% chance of people dying on the table from complications due to the stuff going into your body. So I didn't know, but I just closed my eyes and I thought, okay, well, this might be it. And I remember seeing all these vivid images coming at me, kind of like when you go to the electronics store and they have all those big 4K TVs and they're all really bright and they're showing all these beautiful images and it's like blinds you. It was like that, except it was memories of my life, friends, family, just random snapshots, full color, surround sound, all of it just coming at me, and I didn't know how to process it. And then there was this silence. It was completely quiet in my head, and it was dark and quiet, and then the surgery started. And I woke up an hour later, and they told me that I had 4 impacted arteries. One was blocked 100%. They had to stent it. The other 3 were too small to stent, but they're almost blocked. So, they said you're going to have to take medicine the rest of your life to treat those. And that was that. And I went back to the room, and my wife showed up because she couldn't come in because, at that time it was still COVID, so there was some limitations to hospital visits. And I spent the night in the hospital. Didn't sleep that much. And I think that's when it really hit me. I was pretty sad and depressed and just felt like crap. And the next morning, I got discharged. This nurse came in, the doctor came in, gave me all this new set of pills I had to take, and
you know, said the rehab's going to contact you in a couple of weeks and you're going to set up a schedule and you're going to come into your rehab. But, you know, in the meantime, I want you to get out next week when you feel better and start walking and just start getting back into it. I thought he was crazy. I'm like, I can barely get out of this bed. And I'll never forget when I had to go to this pharmacy, a separate pharmacy than my usual one, because they didn't have the drugs I needed. And so we had to drive across near my house to a different place. And my wife was driving and we got at the parking lot. And, you know, just like every day you go to the store, you get out of your car, you walk across the parking lot to go to the store, right? And I remember getting out of the car and I tried to walk like I normally do. And my body wouldn't let me go at a normal pace. My brain was like, okay, dude, just walk to the pharmacy. It's right there. But my heart was so weak that I could barely walk. Every step was like this effort. And everything is slowed down like a slow motion movie. And I realized at that moment that was probably a sign that I had been moving too fast in my life. And this was my body telling me, dude, you need to slow down. And I'm not gonna let you go fast. That was a really, really eye-opening moment. And then from there, I just started walking every day. I started riding an exercise bike and started going to the mountains and hiking and just kind of getting back into it. And, you know, discovered that I love hiking. And a couple years later, I started running. And then last year, I did my first half marathon. And, you know, I don't know what's next, but I'm just very happy to be where I am. And just the fact that I'm sitting here talking about this in this beautiful park is pretty awesome. So if you're watching this and you're probably looking at my channel and you're seeing the name of my channel is One Step at a Time, and that's pretty much how that's my new motto. And I think about that when I'm walking or hiking or running, and it's just one step. And I keep telling people that all the time. It's like, you don't have to be moving fast, you don't have to be going slow, whatever it is. You know, I remember when I ran my first half marathon, about mile 8, I was on the way back, at the turnaround point, heading back to the start line, and that was in my head. And I was getting tired, and I could kind of feel my muscles starting to tighten, and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna take it one step, one step, one step. And that got me through that race. Even this morning up in the mountain, I was gassed. And that thing was like straight up. It was crazy. And I just thought, okay, I'm gonna take one more step. And then I rested, one more step. And, you know, I think I've been involved, or I've been part of this Facebook group for heart attack survivors, and people they have these, you know, some of these people have really, really bad heart attacks and surgery and widowmakers, and they're just debilitated. They can't move. Some of them are bedridden, and they're just sad and depressed. And sometimes I feel guilty that I can do things like this, but I also think that, you know, for them, their race might be just getting out of bed and walking to the bathroom, or walking out the front door to the mailbox and coming back inside. Maybe that's their marathon, and that's okay. Everyone's different, but I think taking it one step at a time, it's how I've just kind of designed my motto of my life, and it has served me very well these past few years, especially on days like today when things get tough, especially when I'm exercising. And I just kind of look at my feet and I'm like, okay, you know, just one step. And I hope that sticks with me the rest of my life. I don't know if it will, but it means a lot to me. And so, you know, I realize I've been rambling on here for a while. I'm thinking, almost 12 minutes on my camera here. And I'm pretty tired, but I feel great. Got that runner's high, I guess, you know, at the end, and it just feels nice to be done. And what I didn't tell you was at the beginning of the run, I've been doing this lately. I don't know if you've seen the movie Gladiator, where the guy, you know, Russell Crowe, he has this memory of him touching the grain, you know, he puts his hand in the grain where he grew, or, you know, his winery or whatever he lives, and then in the last scene, he touches the dirt and grabs it and kind of puts it in his hands. And, you know, lately before I've been running, I've been squatting down and touching the ground. It's kind of weird. People must think I'm crazy, but it kind of grounds me to kind of what I'm going to be doing next. And I ran a almost 17 mile run 2 weeks ago, longest ever, and I did that. And today I did it as well over here by the water when I was running. And something kind of centers me. And I said out loud to myself a couple of times, just be grateful today. That's it. Just run and be grateful. And that gave me more encouragement than I thought it would. And it's hard to articulate thinking about almost dying and then living this life that I've been able to live. It's hard to articulate that to people. People always ask me, how did you know you're having a heart attack, or how did it happen, or they ask me all the time, and I tell them the story, and it's still mind-boggling that I survived. Sometimes I can't believe it. And so I figured if I survived, then my body has given me a second chance to do stuff like this and talk about it. And hopefully someone's listening, or maybe you'll listen and go, maybe it'll impact you, I don't know. And I certainly don't think my videos are going to get billions of views, and I just hope maybe one person watches it and they appreciate it for what it is. And maybe they'll want to go out and walk or run themselves or do something active. That's all good. So with that, I'm going to wrap this up. I'm going to go to my car. I'm going to drive back down south and wrap this thing up and get a good nap in this afternoon. All right. Take care. Bye.